I'm Gina Kershaw, and I am your host for the Your Today Story podcast. I have a passion for helping women find their true purpose in life, and it all started when I was a criminal defense attorney that actually helped thousands of women get back on their feet and move forward after very challenging times. Building on that experience, I've spent the last 15 years mentoring, motivating, and coaching women to see their true potential so they can start taking action toward living their dream life. This podcast bridges the gap between where you are now and where you want to be by giving you the tools to find your purpose, get control over your emotions and feelings, and start having an impact for good for yourself and everyone around you. These tools are life-changing and will help you to obtain all that you desire, whether it is a successful business or simply peace and clarity in your life. Welcome to the Your Today Story podcast. Hey guys, what is up? How are you? It's good to be back. I took a few weeks off because I was working on my new program called Your Today Story, and we just closed the cart yesterday. And I'm so excited for the women that are joining me in that program who are going to do a deep dive into figuring out their purpose, figuring out what they want in life, and then working on the tools to get them there. I'm just beyond excited about this program and the women I have in there. This program, because it was the first time around, I decided to offer one-on-one coaching, which I usually charge quite a bit for. And I thought it would be great to do the coaching along with the program. So I really make sure that all of my students get from here to here and that they have an amazing experience. So I've been working really hard on that. If you want to learn more about that and maybe join us next time around, the program's closed for now, but it will open up again in late summer. But you can find out more if you go to yourtodaystory.com. You can learn more there and actually get on the wait list. Getting on the wait list it's a good thing because you are eligible then for bonuses that are not available to people who are not on the wait list. So hop on that wait list if you have any interest at all in joining us for Your Today Story next time it is offered. But that's really the reason why I haven't been here for the last couple weeks and just really haven't had time to work on the podcast, even though I freaking love it. So this morning, I'm going to dive right back in. I have so many good podcast ideas coming up for the next few weeks. So I hope you will join me with those and stick with me. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, whether you're subscribing to the video podcast on YouTube or you're subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. I would love for you to do that. That way you won't miss anything. And if you decide to write a review, you would be a golden star for me. I would love that. Screenshot it, send it to me, and I'll send you a little Your Today Story notepad that you can put by your bed and send you lots of love also. So screenshot it, send it to me at yourtodaystory@gmail.com, and I would love to send you a goodie. All right, today in the podcast, we are talking about the power of yes. It's very powerful. I actually have a really cool story to share with you about the power of yes. And I want to ask you, do you believe in a higher power? Whatever that might be for you, spirit, universe, God, do you believe in a higher power? And do you believe that there's no such thing as coincidence? Because have I got a freaking story for you? If you answered yes, or even maybe, I want you to consider how the word yes can be the greatest blessing of your life. But first, before we get to yes, I want to talk about no. There's a lot of podcasts and blogs out there talking about no because, setting boundaries is a thing, right? Especially for people pleasers. You need to know you can say no. You can say no to bringing brownies to your child's classroom. You can say no to a request for a meal for a neighbor, and you don't even have to have a reason. Really, you don't. But I mean, in real life, most times you do have a reason. And the reason is that you are like knee deep in work or you're just completely overwhelmed. But even in those situations, even if you are completely overwhelmed and you don't have any time to do that, you might still feel guilt when you can't cook a meal for someone in need. I have two words for you if you fall into that category: DoorDash. It works. It works. In fact, I will even link it up in the show notes in case you haven't seen it before. For those of you who haven't heard about it, it's an app. You can order food and somebody else will take it. I mean, win win. All right. The point is that I totally get it. I've been there. Part of my religious upbringing was that I should always serve. And I should always be available to bring a meal to anybody who might be in need. And I love this concept in theory because I do believe that we should love and help each other as much as we possibly can. But when I grew up with that as like this expectation, and I'm probably spinning it, I'm probably weirdly spinning it because it was just this thing that I grew up with and like it just felt like such this requirement. But I honestly felt this guilt that I wasn't being Christ-like if I couldn't bring a meal. And I felt like I had to serve. I had to be willing to serve no matter what my current situation was like. And honestly, you guys, I had a hard time with that because the requests always seemed to come during an especially busy work time or um, a time when other things were demanding like all of my time and attention. I got requests to cook meals for people in need when I was in the middle of law school. When I was trying to just keep my three small children under 5 years old alive, which, is a chore. Well, it wasn't a chore, but it can be a lot of work, say it that way. I also got a request to bring a meal to a family while I was in the middle of a murder trial that was requiring 10-hour workdays from me. And there was I mean, whether I thought I was going to be saved for doing it or not, there was literally no way I could help mentally or physically. But still, when I said no, this guilt would come up. And I would still have to say no, right? Because I couldn't help. Some of you know my husband. And yes, he has some flaws, but he's also a saint. And he has joked with me on more than one occasion that he's going to have to sneak me into heaven, like sneaking somebody into the movie theater through the back door because I couldn't serve. And he was always willing to serve. And for me, service just felt like this huge burden. It felt like this thing that was just expected of me. And I honestly had like a huge resentment about it sometimes. And I know some of you might not agree with me, and that's totally fine. But for others of you, this is going to resonate. It's going to ring true. And that is why there are so many discussions about no and giving ourselves permission and grace to say no. And many personal development teachers will actually say that it's so okay to say no that if it's not a hell yes, then it should be a no. And that's okay. I get it. You need to be able to say no and you need to be okay with no. And maybe I'm saying that because my husband's going to have to sneak me in. But he probably will be able to do that because he can do anything. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox with no because now I want to talk about the power of yes. Have you ever watched the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey? Basically, it's Jim Carrey. He has to say yes to everything. And I don't really remember why he has to say yes, but By the end of the movie, he realizes that saying yes exposed him to all of these really amazing life experiences that he wouldn't have experienced otherwise. Um, like learning how to play guitar. I don't know why I remember that part over all of the others, but he learns how to play guitar. And I mean, hey, saying yes might expose some talent that you never knew you even had. So, yes, I want to talk about yes. And this is actually going to be two podcasts because I have a lot to say about yes. Um, there's two yes scenarios I really want to talk with you about. And the first one we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to save the second one for next time. But here's the takeaway for this yes scenario. And this is not going to, it probably won't make sense right away, but just stick with me for a second. If you've let go of the how part of creating your dream life, then yes is probably the next step towards that goal. All right, I'm going to say it one more time. If you've let go of the how part of creating your dream life, yes is probably the next step towards your goal. So, what do I mean by that? If you've been hanging out with me or other personal development people or learning about manifestation and the law of attraction, one of the things that you hear all the time, or even that book, The Secret, right, is that you can have any dream or desire that you want. And in fact, if you have thought of this dream or desire, it's meant for you. There's a reason why you have that in your heart, right? You don't have the same dreams and desires as anybody else. So why did you get that one? It's meant for you. All you have to do to make that thing happen is you just have to put it out there. And that's either by prayer, by using this tool of manifestation, by putting it into the hands of the universe to receive that. And manifestation is all about creating something physical from your brain, from the thoughts in your brain. And this really is backed by science, you guys. If you don't believe me, look up quantum physics. I actually did this. I got on YouTube and looked up quantum physics one time because I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This is backed in science. If I think something, I can make it happen. But it's true. There's YouTube videos with these like world-renowned scientists who talk about how thinking about something and observing it can actually change this physical measurement. So it is backed in science. Anyway, I digress. Basically, manifestation is just thinking something, putting this feeling and energy into it, and you can make that thing happen. But what they also tell you is that that's your only role, right? Don't worry about the how part of it. Like, don't think about, well, I do want that, but how can I make it happen? They tell you don't worry about the how, right? That's not your job. The how part of it is the job of the universe or God. I mean, as soon as you make your desires and your dreams known, then everything else is going to just be put in place for you. Um, God will put all the pieces together to help you attain that goal. Okay, but really, how? Really, how does it happen? All right, this is how it happens, you guys. It happens because as soon as you put that dream or desire out there, you are now being open to the suggestions of the universe. So something you may not have seen before now becomes obvious. Or a person you would have never talked to you is now standing right in front of you. An opportunity you never considered now is a stepping stone, right? It's given to you. And by manifesting your dream and putting it out there and thinking about it, the universe now starts placing all these opportunities in your path. And what do you have to do? Here's where the action comes in. You actually do have to do something. What you have to do is you have to take aligned action. So if one of those opportunities is put in front of you, you're going to talk with that person. You're going to accept that opportunity. And when an unusual situation comes up, realize it may not be a coincidence. even though it doesn't seem like your dream and this thing match, right? You don't know how it all fits together. Likely, it's not a coincidence at all. So, you want to look at every opportunity through the eyes that this could be a potential step on that ladder. And what you have to ask yourself is this: are you willing to do things a little bit differently? Are you willing to get out of your comfort zone? And are you willing to let God or the universe actually help you? Or are you going to not allow that help to come in? Do you believe that the universe always has your back and is always working for your higher good? And do you believe that even though you may not know what the hell is going on, this higher power is moving atoms and molecules and energy and ideas around for you to act upon and for other people to act upon that will now open these doors for you? Would you be willing to go along with that program even if you didn't know how you were going to get from here to there? That's a good question, right? I would say yes. If I knew that by now accepting these opportunities, that it was going to put me one step closer to my dream or goal because the universe always has my back, would I be more willing to say yes? I say yes. This is where I say yes, but I have this story to tell you. So, 2020. All right. This thing happened during the year of 2020. It was this, thing called a pandemic. It really like shifted the world and people, right? And I remember this day. I happened to be, I don't know, just at home and I was watching the news and I saw this newsreel about these volunteers kind of helping load boxes into cars, giving food to people who had been suffering from this pandemic, right? Because there was a lot of people that were furloughed. They didn't have money coming in. There was problems with unemployment, like weird stuff going on. And there was so many people just struggling to pay rent and feed families, right? And there was a lot of people who weren't eligible for help from the government, who were just truly struggling. And I saw this on TV. I saw the guys out there with like their yellow vests on working and like loading boxes into cars. And I had this moment where I thought, that's something that I could do. Mind you, I hadn't thought about volunteering not once before that. But for me, the year 2020 was much different than it was for many people who were truly suffering with illness and with job loss and businesses that were, like ending. I had actually given notice at my job, and my last day was January 31st in 2020. So that was about a month before all hell broke loose. And at the time that this thing happened that I'm going to tell you about, I was working as a freelance graphic designer and just helping people build Kajabi websites, like create their own courses. And so when the pandemic just showed up in full force and everything got shut down, I was still able to help a lot of people because now people were turning to online businesses and seeing how they could, bring in some income for themselves and their families. And so I felt like this pandemic really didn't affect me as much as many of the people around me. So when I saw this news story, I just felt like I wanted to help. Like I had been blessed during this year, even though many people hadn't, and I wanted to help. So I thought that I would do what these people were doing on this news story, right? I thought, well, I'll just volunteer at the local food bank, right? I saw that local food banks were providing food for families affected by the pandemic. And I loved how the local businesses and corporations were working together to help these families in need. Now, mind you, I'd never done that before. Never in my life. I've never worked at a food bank. I didn't know anybody who had. I have friends who have volunteered before, but I had never done it. I didn't have anybody to go with me. And so I Googled like local food bank, and it was the OC Food Bank. And they had this website page where you could actually sign up. You could pick a time to volunteer. And so I volunteered for a date and I put it on my calendar, and I downloaded the address of where to go. So here's the critical point. This is where the power of yes rolls in. This is where the universe asks, how committed are you? Well, I wasn't that committed, honestly. I woke up thinking that day, like, I woke up and I was like, why did I volunteer for that? I don't, I don't feel like doing that today. So I tried to cancel. And on the OC Food Bank website, you can actually cancel, right? There's a way to let them know if you're not going to be there. I was like, this is awesome. I can just cancel. And if you can picture this, I wake up, I'm like, shit, I don't want to do that today. I take my phone, I'm looking up the food bank. I see on their website, like, if you're not going to be able to make it, click here. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to cancel my commitment for the day, and it's not working. It's not working. And I was supposed to be there at 9 a.m. So I actually got up out of bed. I went to my computer, logged into, I was determined to cancel, by the way, super determined, committed to canceling. I got on my computer, got on the Food Bank website, found the little link where it says, if you can't make it, please let us know. Click here. It wouldn't work. So I had a decision to make, right? I I could just not show up. I mean, who would know? Their website obviously wasn't working. Or option two, I could just go, hand out food for a few hours and whatever. So, joke's on me, right? God was probably chuckling over his coffee that morning because I am a tough sell. I woke up thinking I did not want to volunteer that day, and I tried to get out of it. It didn't work. Here's where I could have said yes or no. So, what was the difference? Well, this was something that I had initiated. And why did I even volunteer? Why did I initiate it? I don't know. I saw the news story. I like had a wild hair. I was inspired. I acted impulsively. But that's the difference, right? It's totally the difference. I couldn't blame this on anybody but myself. I couldn't blame it on church or any guilt there. All right. So what now? I decided, okay, fine. I was practically yelling at the universe, fine, I'll go. I probably had the worst attitude ever. I got over it. I just like, okay, I'm going to go. I got to be there by 9. I'm getting in the car. I'm going. But here's what happened. This is really like when I talked about it later that day, I could not talk about it even now without kind of choking up, you guys. Whew. Wow. Because like it's moments that you have that you realize that there really is a higher power. Like there really are no coincidences. And if you're not willing to step up, sometimes you're pushed. Felt like I was a little pushed that morning, but I did. I said yes. I was like, fine, I'll go. Okay, so here's what happened. First of all, I had no idea where I was going. I put the address into Waze. I was like, I'll try to find where I'm going. And when I reached the location, all I could see was this huge warehouse. It did say OC Food Bank on the side, so I felt like I was in the right place, but there was no people, right? I don't know why I expected like seeing a whole bunch of volunteers, like, getting out of their cars, walking towards, some door that I couldn't see. There was nobody. There was nobody there. I mean, the parking lot was almost empty. There was a few cars there. So I checked the address again and I pulled into the spot next to this pickup truck. And I looked around. I was hoping to find another person that could hopefully direct me to where I needed to go. And I had pulled up next to this pickup truck because it had its windows down. And I thought maybe somebody was sitting there and I could say, like, hey, do you know where I should go? But when I looked over there at the driver's seat, there was nobody there. There was nobody in the truck, but the windows were down, which was kind of odd. But I got out, I locked my car, and I just started walking one way, right? Like I was like, okay, I think I'll go this way. And still, could nobody was around. And I walked about 20 feet and then I noticed another person. I was like, oh, thank goodness, right? I see this girl and she's getting a few things like a backpack and a few things out of her trunk. She shuts her trunk and then she turns to me and starts walking towards me. And I was like, oh, this is good. Like I'll ask this woman where if she knows where I should go. And so she walks towards me. And as she walks toward me, I said, excuse me, is this the food bank? And she said, yes. And I said, do you know where the volunteers are supposed to go? Well, it was at that moment that she kind of looked past me over my shoulder, like back where my car was. And like she was making this decision, like she was supposed to go that way. And then she said, well, you know what? I do know where it is. Let me just walk with you. And I was like, are you sure? Like you can just point me in the right direction. She's like, no, that's okay. I have to go that way anyway. So I honestly felt a little bad because she was obviously headed somewhere else. And now I thought, well, now she feels obligated to show me where to go because I'm obviously this very lost person, right? But she just assured me, she's like, no, it's no problem. I do have to go this way anyway. And so I asked her, I said, are you here to volunteer? Have you volunteered before? And she said, yes, that she had been there to volunteer, which is why she knew exactly where we needed to go. And her name was Erin, which just happens to be my daughter's name. So, of course, I immediately liked her, but she was just the kindest person. And she showed me um, this door into the warehouse. Still, you guys, there's no people anywhere. Like I keep expecting to find a big group of people because this is this massive warehouse. But she walks me to this door, and I realize there's a sign that says like volunteers come in. And I walk in, and there's a group of about 8 or 9 people just kind of standing in a circle, kind of talking. And she joins them and she says hello to people like she knows a few of them. And I said, well, what do I do now? She said, don't worry, we'll get you situated and just sign in here. She gave me the clipboard. I sign in. And then some guy walks over and he says, I owe you a shirt. And I said, okay. I'm like, wow, food bank really likes it when people come volunteer. They're even giving us t-shirts. I had no clue, none. So I'm kind of carrying this t-shirt around, but I noticed that the other people in this group have the t-shirt on, right? And it's this gray t-shirt with their name in the front. And so I kind of lean over and ask, I'm like, are we supposed to put the t-shirt on? And she said, well, it's kind of a team thing. So I'm like, okay, so I guess that means yes. So I go in the bathroom, I put the t-shirt on, I come back out, and they're kind of ready to get started, right? So they take us on the tour of the warehouse. They show us around, like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be making boxes, and we set up this like receive, like, I don't know, where everybody puts something in, it goes down the line. I can't remember what it's called right now. You know what I mean, though, like in a factory, right? Like the box moves down the line and everybody's putting their part into it. And I just made boxes all day and I was taping the boxes because I'm a good taper, shipping taper, just in case you didn't know that about me. One of my hidden talents, by the way, but I was making these boxes all day long. And while I was making these boxes, I'm kind of looking around at these other people, and they are the best group, right? Like they're all like hard workers. They're just getting shit done. And it feels so good, honestly, to be there and knowing that I'm helping, like I'm making a difference. But then I noticed on the back of some of these gray t shirts, it says disaster response team. And I start to think, I don't think I'm in the right place. Yeah, I don't think I'm in the right place because obviously I have a t shirt on that also says disaster response team on my back, right? So near the end of the day, they start talking about getting together again the next Saturday, and also, doing this again. And I thought, you know what, I'd like to do that. I would like to come back and work with the same group of people again because they're really awesome. And I found this experience very rewarding. But they're talking about their team, and I know that I'm not on any part of their email or anything like that. So I walked up to the lady who was kind of in charge of our group, our leader, and I said, I would like to come back next Saturday. Is there any way that I can get more information or get on your email list so that I know when this group is doing stuff? And she said, well, didn't you? It's just on roll call. You just look on roll call and you'll see where all the information is. And I was like, well, what's roll call? And she, she looks at me and she says, how did you get here again? And I said, well, I just signed up online. I went to the website of the OC Food Bank and signed up. She starts laughing. I've been working with them all day, mind you. And I said, I'm not in the right place, am I? And she said, you're not in the right place. And I don't know how that happened, except for me meeting Erin and Erin bringing me to this group of people. But she tells me that this team I'm with is actually a disaster response team, and it's called Team Rubicon. And to be part of their group and to be volunteering together, I would have had to have gone through a background check and done some online courses to be part of this team. We were laughing about it. And it probably was a good thing that I was very good at, the shipping tape. Otherwise, she may not have wanted me back. But it was just so like odd how it all fell into place because I went over and I talked to Erin and I said, Erin, why did you bring me into this group? And she said, oh, I just thought you were volunteering for Team Rubicon. And I said, no, I didn't even know about Team Rubicon. I didn't even know what that was. And I said, well, why were you walking towards me? That was crazy. And she told me that the pickup truck that was parked next to me had its windows down, and she knew whose truck that was. And she also knew that the only time he leaves his windows down is when he has his dog in the back. And so she had looked over and saw the windows down and assumed his dog was there and was walking over to say hello to his dog. And I just happened to park next to that. So she walked towards me instead of away from me, and I would have never met her. So many freaking things fell into place that day, you guys. So many things. So the leader invited me to join Team Rubicon. She told me how to find Team Rubicon online. I came home, I got online, I watched the stuff about Team Rubicon, was freaking blown away by what they do. Because, side note, I have always wanted to do some kind of humanitarian type of work, but I didn't know how. Right. You always see like Red Cross and those kind of groups moving in after a disaster. And I just didn't quite know how to even like get involved with things like that. And so this was something like in my heart that I had wanted for my future, was to be involved in something like this. So when I watched everything on the computer, and I will link to those things. Team Rubicon just put out like a little 30-minute movie about how they got started. This group is incredible. I mean, they are a lot of former military. They're civilians. They call them kick-ass civilians. I just love the whole culture of this group. I love their attitude. I love how they're slightly off center, and I just love everything about them. And so I was all in, and I signed up. I submitted things for the background check. I did the few little online courses. And then from there, I went back the next Saturday, joined the group again in my gray shirt, which is what they call it. Once you join Team Rubicon, you're part of the gray shirt family. And I thought, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that this happened, that this was like put in my path. And from that point, I thought, now that I'm in this disaster response group and can get deployed to areas where I'm needed, how can I help the best? And that's when I had the idea to actually help on the medical side of things. That's always intrigued me. It's always interested me. In fact, my mom thinks it's hilarious that I am doing this now because I always wanted to go to med school, but I couldn't quite get past chemistry. Um, so that was never, which is why I became a lawyer. Yeah. Different roads, different roads. But she thinks it's so funny that now I'm turning back to something that I had originally wanted. But wanting to help on the medical side led me into researching about how to become an EMT. And at the time of recording this podcast, I am in my last few weeks of my EMT training. I've actually been on 2 ambulance ride-alongs, and I'm learning so much. And I know that I can actually help in a very meaningful and rewarding way at some point in the future. How did it all start? First, I have to ask you this. Was it a coincidence that I happened to see a particular news story that moved me to act impulsively and volunteer? I don't know. Was it a coincidence? Was it a coincidence that a person named Erin would walk towards me because she wants to see a dog in the car parked right next to me, but she happens to be the one who brings me into the warehouse and shows me where the volunteers go? Is that a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that she would bring me to not where the OC Food Bank volunteers go, but directly into this very welcoming Team Rubicon group, have me sign in and give me a gray shirt? And is it coincidence that I would work all day alongside these amazing individuals only to find out I was in the wrong place, the right place, but the wrong place the entire time? And that to be part of this group, I would have had to have had some kind of background check. Is it coincidence that I would then talk with this leader and she would invite me to go online and join Team Rubicon? And that then I would get inspired to get my EMT license so I could be deployed to more humanitarian response situations, something that I have always wanted to do? Yeah, it was one yes. Granted, it took some pushing. I said the first yes when I volunteered, but then I was like, just kidding. That's really a hard no. But the push, right? The push came. And when the push came, I was like, fine, yes, yes. It was that yes that led to all of that. And you guys, I was obviously not in control of any of those synchronicities that brought me from watching that news story to where I am now finishing EMT school. I was not in control of any of those things. A higher power laid everything out in front of me, opened my eyes to something on TV, and then brought certain people into my path, and then gave me ideas to expand upon what it had just given me. And it was all from one yes. It's so powerful. To finish this up, I want to say this is not about saying yes to everything if you can't. This is not about saying yes to bringing that plate of brownies that you really don't want to bring. But if you do say yes to the plate of brownies, who knows if there might be an opportunity waiting for you on the other side of that that you just can't see right now. So I want to challenge you to start saying yes. Here's the challenge. I want you to say yes to at least 5 things today. And I want you to notice what magic or opportunities start coming into your life because they're coming. And all it takes is yes. All right. That is it for today. I am going to link to the Team Rubicon site. I'm going to link to the OC Food Bake site. I'm going to link to the Team Rubicon movie so you can join, so you can learn more. And you can also join if you want, if that's something that just tugged at your heart. And of course, I'll put the links in there to Your Today Story, which is part of all of this wonderful, just I want to say magic because it just feels like magic, but it's really the universe and this higher power working to bless us, to bring us in alignment with our true purpose in life if we only just let it, if we only open ourselves up to it. And it starts with knowing what you want. It starts with knowing what your desires and dreams are. And in Your Today Story, we figure all that out and then you move on from there. It is awesome. So I will link to that also. And I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I love doing this. I love sharing experiences with you. And I love hearing from you about how this podcast has like impacted your life. That kind of blows me away, honestly, but I am so grateful for that. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Next week, I'm going to talk about the other yes that I talked about earlier. And that is expecting yes. So when you ask a question of somebody, or seeking an opportunity, expecting the yes and seeing how that changes everything. So we'll talk about that next week. In the meantime, I hope you have an amazing day. Have a great week, and I will see you soon.